Hark the bardic paladin, who sings and plays again. He tells the tales of glory and weaves a magic story. He'll join you at your table and ask you to share a fable. Heroes of humble origin, villains who must be fought again. No matter their skill or prowess, the people in life are countless. So we pray you heed our request. Enjoy this tale of sidekicks and side quests.
Episode 145, Antoine and Mina, Fantasy Truckers. Welcome to Sidekicks and Side Quests, the Dungeons & Dragons podcast that helps to put humans back into humanity and breathe life into your campaign NPCs with backstory and bravado. That's right, we're building a world, one character at a time. I am your host, Kurt Krenwelge, the Bardic Paladin, and I'll be joining Elizabeth and Michael Horsley's table in the Levitating Platter. Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Sidekicks and Side Quests, the best unofficial Dungeons & Dragons podcast, in my humbly biased opinion. I've got an awesome pair of guests for you this month for this episode here for March. But before I get to my guests, you know I got to do it. I got to leave you in suspense with the ad read. This episode is brought to you by Plus One EXP and their brand new RPG Zine Club. Zine Club is a monthly membership subscription service featuring fresh zines from emerging and expanding creators across the globe. It's our way of inviting GMs, players, and zine lovers everywhere to invest more intentionally in the creative community. It's crowdsourced support without crowdfunding. So this service offers monthly releases that they put out in two 20 to 44 page saddle stitch zines. 3 different flavors. Take your pick from story zines, adventure zines, and all of the zines. You can pick your format of print and digital, or just get digital only for your favorite titles. Join the Clubhouse Discord section of the Plus One EXP community on Discord. Get the best prices guaranteed from your subscription that you're going to get each month. You get a private subscription portal where you can manage your subscription, add products, or change your information, change your frequency monthly, every other month, something else. You pick how often you want these new titles to arrive. You only get what you want. And if you miss a month, why, you can always go back and add a title to your recent month's order. Get an annual surprise each February after your first anniversary. Get access to special content with interviews, how to play videos, special content for Zine Club titles. Get a free pizza if you fill out one of the RPG Zine Club passports, or redeem it for a free pizza at events where Tony is present himself. You're going to get access to new and known designers, the best voices from across the RPG design community. And know that Plus One EXP and RPG Zine Club curate their zines based on community interest and feedback to help you discover your new favorite creators. There's a DIE focus because Plus One is committed to championing diversity, inclusion, and equity in their projects. Creators with diverse experiences make our community better. So Zine Club prioritizes creating equity for all of our creators. And it's more than a purchase. Your subscriptions will let us invest more heavily in our print partners and provide them with potentially life-changing support by consolidating scores or hundreds of purchases as the club grows. So, if you want to learn more, I would recommend that you go to the website rpgzine.club, again, rpgzine.club, and if you want, go to plusoneexp.com, and when you're buying stuff on that site, beard balms or lip balms or beard RPGs or whatnot, and you need a discount code at checkout, be sure to use the code RANDOLPH, RANDOLPH, at checkout and get some savings on your purchase at no extra cost to you. Again, website is plusoneexp.com, and the Zine Club website is rpgzine.club. All right. And without further ado, I turn the microphones over to my guests, my pair of guests, and I ask them, hello, would you care to reintroduce yourself and tell us who it is that you are and what is it that you do.
Hi, Kurt. I'm Elizabeth. This is Michael. Actually, I'm Hobart today. No, just kidding. You got me thinking with Randolph. That's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
It's a name I have not heard in many years. Yes, yes. Yes, so these are among my very first guests of the podcast. They were my good friends that we all started hanging out and playing D&D together with 5th edition. And since then, you know, our friendship has blossomed and grown and we just continue to hang out and talk about and nerd out about D&D and all that good stuff. So, it's good to see you virtually and hear you again back on the podcast. So I hope it's been good since the last time you've been on the show, which, oh goodness, I have to look in the archives here because the last time for Rock
We were
Folio.
very early.
Yes, you both were episodes number 4 and 5, and then the pair of you together came back for episode 60. And now we're already way up here with this is going to be episode 145. So it's been a while since we've heard from y'all, but yeah, for those who are newer to the podcast, who haven't had the opportunity to go back and listen to those early episodes, can you give the people's just like a little like this is who I am and what it is that I do?
I am Elizabeth, and I am a domestic engineer. I'm in charge of making sure everyone in this house is fed and everything is clean. And yeah, and I also paint, and I am a master gardener and a museum docent, and I work really hard for someone who doesn't have a paying job.
And I'm Michael. I'm Elizabeth's husband of almost 10 years now.
Yeah.
Just about as long as we've known Kurt in our early D&D playing day, or at least my early first D&D playing days. I am a, uh, electrical engineer by degree, but IT consultant by trade. Been doing that for coming on 13 years now. And then in my spare time, I've been a game master for Pathfinder Second Edition, playing the Kingmaker module.
Yeah, I think that's gonna roll in beautifully to the next question, which as returning guests, this is now your third episode of each of you back on the podcast, and the second of the pair of you both on together. The way we rephrase these questions for returning guests. So since the last time we spoke, again, which episode 60 was recorded. Goodness, episode 60 was recorded on August 21st, 2021, but didn't actually premiere until October the 6th of 2021. So, officially, as far as the podcast record is concerned, have you been playing D&D? It sounds like Pathfinder and maybe some other systems since the last time we spoke.
I don't think we've played D&D much.
No, we did the one shot.
That Kurt's one shot.
Yeah, we did a one shot. What do you call those? A heist.
Yes, I remember
Yes.
that. I think that's all the D&D we've played, though.
And
Ah,
then we might have also played with Charles's sessions for a fifth edition module called um, what's it? So it's in the Underdark.
Out of the
Um,
Abyss.
Out of the Abyss. Yes,
Yeah.
we made it to
Ah,
probably level 2, playing in a
ooh,
bar.
okay.
A
There you go.
challenging working environment.
We did recently play Magical Kitties Save the Day for the first time. I highly recommend, especially if you like more of group storytelling and less of heavy math.
But it still has dice, so that is definitely RPG.
But the game master did not need any dice.
More theater of the mind.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, since 2021, obviously a lot of things have happened in the hobby since then. And, obviously us being friends and all, offline as well, and, living locally here in the DFW area, we've had a chance to talk considerably offline. So, um, your motivation for maybe branching out and trying some more of these other game systems, does have to go back to the OGL thing that happened.
Well, even before that, we met a person named Andy, who unfortunately just moved away back to Victoria. Someone you should definitely get on the podcast
Yeah.
sometime. And he introduced us to first edition. And then if I'm all the Pathfinder, yes. Then all the OGL stuff happened. So I decided, hey, let's try second edition. Let's see how that goes. And we did the
I just thought
Dinner
a game
Bucks.
called Magical Kitty Save the Day sounded hilarious. Sorry, I wanted it for Christmas.
Yeah.
Which I think it's kind of old news by now, but it still holds up.
Mhm.
Yeah, and so getting to explore and play other systems, how do you feel like that's helped enrich your gaming diet, if you will?
I really like the 3-action economy in Pathfinder 2, and I don't want to go back.
Interesting.
Have you experienced this 3-action economy?
Yes, I mean I know we went on a camping trip together, and
Oh, yeah.
Elizabeth ran us through a Pathfinder 2e one
You
shot.
were all leshies. It was amazing.
Yes, we were like little dandelion plant people. I was the bard of the group, and I think
You were a dandelion plant.
I
Or,
was
That
a
was a
dan
mushroom.
no, you were a cactus.
I was a cactus. Yes.
Yes, because you were like the sheriff guy. Yeah. So
The
that was
sheriff.
fun trying to trying to play that with small children sleeping and falling out of chairs and waking up freaked out because they fell out of chairs.
I found small children get the most into the role playing aspect of role playing games. So it's very fun.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So no, I mean, so that game as well as during one time in the pandemic, a buddy from college wanted to run some 2e on, I believe it was Roll 20, and so that was like I played like one session. And to me, it feels very much like fourth edition, like because that's where I got my start. So I can switch back and forth between 4e, 5e, and be like, oh, okay. And now that my birthday has come and gone, I got some birthday money, and I was able to buy the newest generation of Xbox Series X, and then we got and downloaded Baldur's Gate 3. So now I'm happy to announce that I can finally play Baldur's Gate 3 and understand all the references and the memes. And I'm working on my first playthrough with Duncan from the podcast. So I need to take a picture of him and put him up on social media so everyone can see my interpretation of a possible interpretation of how Duncan would appear. So he is just being delightfully chaotically good, bumbling from one adventure to the next with all the other companions, trying to save Baldur's Gate and all the people. So
Almost all of my characters are chaotic neutral, and I don't know what that says about me. I once did a thought experiment of what would all of my characters do with a deck of many things.
oh,
One of them would be responsible and would try to destroy it immediately. One of them would want to be responsible, but it would just pick at her and she would finally start pulling cards. And one of them would think it was hilarious and immediately start pulling cards.
well, there you go. That sounds pretty plausible. Pretty plausible to me. And maybe it's a good litmus test for all your characters to just think like, what would my character do with a deck of many things?
Different flavors of chaotic.
True. Yeah, perfect. And Mr. Michael, did you have anything to add as far as all the games you guys have been exploring and playing since 2021?
I think that's covered most of what we've played. We do have a friend who wants to try to play Osric, which is uh, a lore removed version of first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. So we'll see how that goes.
Okay, okay. And I think the biggest shift, as we've found in our years since we've spoken and reported officially on our gaming, as you were alluding to earlier, Michael, like you originally started off as like someone who had never played D&D before, and then when our group got together, you started playing, and it was like me and Elizabeth and like Charles, who would run games, but now you find yourself in the behind the screen. So what has that transition been like as far as like lifting the veil and getting to be in the DM's club as far as like how games are run and world building and doing adventures and all
Well, I definitely have appreciated modules.
that?
That helps with the planning part because planning is what makes games happen and not just turn into chaos. Although chaos can be fun sometimes too. And I've definitely seen bits and pieces of different styles, both from,
Half of what I do, I wing it.
well, you have to be able to respond. It's like improv. You
Mhm.
never know what people are going to do, but you can find ways to get people to go where you're trying to go. But definitely seen things and styles of things that I see on the internet, the famous YouTubers, but even
Yeah.
more so from the playthroughs of what I've done with not only recent people like Charles, but also Kurt, you being my first dungeon master. A lot of the things that you've done, I like to bring to the table, especially kind of a balance between theater of the mind and playing with the little cardboard cutout figurines of
Yeah.
the monsters. I have my big box collection full of ones that are specific even for the campaign. I splurged a little bit just to bring in some of that visual
Well,
aspect.
in Pathfinder specifically, there's so many things you can do with positioning that it helps even more so in that system than in D&D to have an actual battle map.
Yes. And then it's fun playing with min maxers and people who just want to role play sometimes. So
Right.
finding a balance between that is interesting.
Yeah, I always max out charisma because it makes it more fun.
I had a whole battle planned for this big bad evil guy boss. And instead of fighting them, they romanced him and won that way.
Wow. This is the
We
power of
flirted our
love.
way into the den of thieves, and then I think we broke one of our players.
Oh, yes.
He had ever heard
The hardcore guy who'd been playing Pathfinder since before it was mainline or mainstream, kind of the fourth edition.
he had run that module several times and had never seen a group do that before.
Yes. Very unique group.
But it was Charles and I, and it just started happening.
The cue, the fade to black, and him just the game master just being befuddled, being like, in all my times of running this module, I've never like being stumped. Yeah,
Yes.
It was
impressive.
not so much fade to black as it was, I'm going to flirt and try to undermine the authority of the head thief.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
Neutralize the minions was the big key piece there.
Act ditzy to neutralize the minions. And then they became my goon squad, which is
Ooh.
always fun.
You got some muscle following you around and stuff.
Well, it is Kingmaker and she is the queen. So
Oh, you ended up becoming the queen.
Yes.
Pretty cool. Well, I think this is a good segue to the next question, which, with the podcast being sidekicks and side quests, since 2021, have you come across any new or interesting NPCs or sidekick characters from all the media and the games and the things that you've seen and consumed and done? Any that stand out?
Well, for Magical Kitties, I had a self-insert character who was the quest giver. So it was a way for me to be part of it, but not to take away from the main characters. I was the
And
librarian who unleashed a dragon from a book that they had to go find.
so it was a version of you?
Yes.
Oh,
Well, actually, my cat was the one who told the other kitties that there was a problem.
yes, but the librarian was a version of you.
Yes, the librarian wasn't very good.
interesting. Okay. Right, because in that game, everyone's cats, and it's sort of like low stakes as far as like, you're not trying to defeat the apocalypse lord as cats. It's like,
You could. It's just your humans will never know about it.
well, there you go.
You're
Yeah.
secretly out there saving the world.
Mm. One one missing dragon from a book at a time.
Well, it was a one shot, so they had to be able to wrap it up.
Of course, of course.
The opposite end of that spectrum, though, I've had fun as a game master interjecting random characters that kind of reoccur and provide almost a comedic relief, but a familiarity.
Hmm.
Anyone ring a bell?
That one guy.
Mm, got to take
Yeah,
better
that
That
one
was-
notes.
guy from that one place that did that one thing.
But definitely using media that I've seen to kind of inspire some ideas around that.
It was based on the actor that is in IT Crowd and the vampires. What We Do in the
Matt Berry?
Shadows. Yes.
Ah, you
But
clever
that
person.
was applying him to a bad character. Yes. The picture in the adventure module book looked spitting image, so it gave me some inspiration there. But I was referring to Rusty,
Oh, Rusty Shackelford.
who King of the Hill folks will know the reference to.
So you had a King of the Hill character show up in your
A
Pathfinder game?
mythical version. He's not, he's the
He very much thinks there's conspiracy theories and he's usually right, but we can convince him that he's not.
Is he an exterminator?
He should be. You
They-
could add that to the lore.
they haven't dug that deep into it. He just randomly appears when
Well,
when
maybe
the
he
need serves.
works in the same guild as Amelia, the Bullywug exterminator. Well, I don't know if Pathfinder has bullywugs or similar frogmen or something like that, but a way to use the podcast resources.
To call it. Yeah. Fortunately, we're playing in the pre-remaster before they removed all the OGL stuff, so probably easier to equate things.
Okay. All right. And then same sort of thing. What's been a new or interesting side quest that you've come across since 2021 when we last spoke in one of your many games or B plot elements in a show or movie or something like that?
So the most hilarious, I keep talking about the kitties because it's heavy on my mind. The most hilarious thing they did was one of the kitties humans was upset because they left a friend at a party. And so the kitties stole a police cruiser and parked it outside the party and then turned on the sirens to end the party so the friend would be safe.
Oh,
It was a very sketchy party.
it was in that one part of town.
Yes.
Mine's a little bit outside of the gaming world. Everyone who's familiar with Star Trek and its different iterations knows there's usually an A plot and a B plot. And I'm sure it goes across different genres besides just Star Trek.
Mhm.
But on the animated show Lower Decks, they take that to the extreme as a self-parody. And there's numerous hilarious examples of that being the side quest, but it turns out that's actually the main plot in an episode where they go to a really out of date starbase. And well, it seems like what the captain's doing, because again, the lower decks are the main characters, not the bridge crew.
Mhm.
And while it seems like all the adventures the main cast is going on is what you should be focused on, it's
Mhm.
actually the side quest that's the main story.
Yeah, I remember on your episode 60, you were mentioning the lower decks, and it does seem like a show that I could get into as someone who's not very much a trekker. But I appreciate the movies and stuff like that. It's just I'm not that deep in the lore, and only having just recently, within the last year or so, finally binged the Orville, which is the Seth MacFarlane parody of Star Trek, which I was like, oh, that show starts
And I would
off as
argue
more
not so
crass.
much parody as much as it is a love story or a love letter to
Yeah, I
Star
would
Trek.
agree because it starts off kind of like very over the top parody, but then as it goes on and takes itself more seriously, you're like, oh, this is actually like, this is like Seth MacFarlane's version of Star Trek, which is fun.
Which he was on. He was a character on Star Trek Enterprise for an episode in engineering.
Oh, that's cool. And then, of course, Chris Pine and all the movies that came out. I don't know if they'll try and reboot those again with like a yet another version of Kirk or whatever. I don't know what.
If
I
they
don't
can
know.
make more money, they'll do it.
Hmm.
What's
More
funny you
lens
say that
flares.
because there is one of the remaining shows that they're making is set and they have a new Kirk. It's called Strange New Worlds, and
It's right before the events of the original series.
but it's live action. It has Anson Mount as the captain, and it's got Rebecca Rosen. Not sure how to
Romaine?
pronounce her name.
Is it Rebecca Romaine who was Mystique in the
Yes,
original
her.
X-Men movies?
Yes, she plays the first officer, and then several other new characters and a couple introductions of classic characters. It's a good show.
Okay. Very cool. And then, of course, the way we end the personal interview section of the episode. Michael and Elizabeth, what is a new passion or hobby that you've developed since 2021? And why has this been a new or exciting passion or hobby that's come into your life?
Well, Elizabeth's thinking, I'll go first. So mine, we've talked a little bit about, has been changing the side of the screen that I sit on and playing the game master, dungeon master role. It's been a fun experience and getting to do that and looking forward to having different people take turns at that, but continuing to keep going. We're going to get to level 20 someday. That's the dream.
It
He's
is,
still
yeah.
naive enough to think that's going to happen. As a gardener, I focus a lot on vegetables, but lately I've been focusing on flowers. So that's my
Hmm.
new thing.
Any particular favorites?
I really like zinnias just because they're pretty. There's a lot of different kinds and they will grow and be beautiful right through our crazy summer.
Yes. The summers
I
in Dallas are no
yes.
joke.
Yes. Well, anything I plant has to survive my level of neglect.
Mm, true, 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 true. Yeah. Well, I know we're making an honest attempt at gardening this year with we had to rip out a whole thing with one of our trees and we put some onions down now and we're working on adding more. We went to the store earlier today to go get some more manure and stuff like that. So my 4-year-old was like, "Oh, we're getting poop." It's like we're getting manure from cattle and from
He's
chickens, but
not wrong, Kurt.
yeah, I know he's not wrong. But yeah, no, we had fun today getting all that. And
Little boys love talking about poop.
now if I could just get him potty trained, that would be the miracle of our lives. But, hopefully when he listens to this episode many years from now, he won't be too embarrassed that dear old dad said that out loud for the internet to hear. But he's 4, so, it's a little understandable. Perfect. Well, it sounds like we made it through the personal interview section. Are you guys ready to head into some NPC creation?
Let's do it.
Yep.
And NPC creation is brought to you by you, the podcast audience, and our patrons from Patreon. So now's the time of the show where we give a shout out to our comfortable patrons and above with a loud hurrah. So to you, Katie Downey, aka Goblin Katie, Anson Jablinski, and good old mom and dad, we say cheers. Again, patrons who donate $2 or more a month get to get a shout out on all of our episodes that we record, which again, this season 6 are going to be monthly. So if you really want to make your mark, you should consider it. And all these folks that I named as well are among our wealthy level of patronage, at least, which means they get to introduce an element of chance to our random tables here for NPC creation. We might get to hear some of those responses used here today. So if you want to learn more about our Patreon community, you should check out the show notes below, go to the podcast website, or just go directly to patreon.com/sidekicks and sidequests to find out more about our 4 tiers of patronage and help us to expand and grow our operations at the levitating platter in this demi-plane and worlds beyond. All right, so we are here now. You know the drill. You've listened to the episodes. I know you two have binged every episode at least 5 times each. So you know how this thing goes. And I think, are we going to be rolling some random dice and doing like rock and folio and just kind of along the way figuring out how they're related, or do you have like some sort of preconceived idea that you have taking in and going into this episode?
I was planning on rolling the dice.
I've got some framework of an idea, but I'll definitely need to roll some dice to fill in the gaps.
Okay. Well, what's we can certainly merge the two ideas together. So, what's the framework that you're thinking of working with?
So I've been playing a lot of American and Europe truck simulator or European truck simulator too.
Ah.
So I got thinking along the lines of, well, the equivalent in a fantasy world would be the caravan
Hmm.
driver, the person who brings the goods around that you might happen to stumble upon. Maybe they're the salesman. Maybe they're just taking things from here to there.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking like a trucker, but in a fantasy setting.
Ooh, so is it like a driver co-driver situation? Because Michael and Elizabeth know when I first moved to Dallas, my start was sort of in the trucking world, albeit I was in like collections and finance and stuff like that. But I worked for a major
You
company in
weren't
the
driving the truck, but you were very much truck adjacent.
right. Like I
He
knew
was
stuff
supporting the
about trucks.
truckers.
I was supporting truckers. Yeah. So is this like a driver co-driver situation? Is this going to be like one's the muscle guard and the other one's the actual takes care of the animals, the beasts of burden driving this wagon caravan thing?
Well, we're married. What if we had a couple that was trucking together?
Okay. All right, so a trucking, a wagon, a caravan. I don't know what the medieval term would be, but could be, but quote unquote trucking. We have a trucker couple that are moving goods from point A to point B, and that's what they do. And you'll meet them in a city, or you'll meet them along the road, and that's the gist that we're working with. Does that sound plausible and good to the both of you?
Sounds good to me. Sounds good.
I might have
Okay.
some ideas in it. Okay.
Ah. Okay. Yeah, well, feel free to use those, but of course, you know that we like our random tables and we have all the responses here before us to use. So, if you're ready to begin, we got to figure out some names. So, you can roll a d20 and help us to figure out what's going to be the name of each of our characters of our married couple. And of course, you know, you're free to make any changes, you know, if you get your response and you're like, "Oh, that doesn't fit with what we're thinking."
Michael's finding dice.
Ah,
Okay, I'm intimidated by this dice.
Do you want me to get a smaller die?
No, you just might have to roll it for both of us. It's okay. Nobody's going to be able to see this, but it's very large.
okay. Yes, it's a
Not the
large.
largest I've seen, but
Mhm.
you roll first.
All right. That is an 18.
18. Aha. Okay. Well, your answer was provided by our previous guest, Jade Antoine. So Antoine. Antoine. That's a good solid name. And then Elizabeth, what do you get?
I got 3.
3. Oh, okay. I think this will work. Well, this was provided by our previous guest and our friend Elise Basili, Mina. So we've got Antoine and Mina, the trucker couple.
Those are appropriate. So
They are appropriate names indeed. And let's see. The next question we have to ask ourselves is, what is the ancestry of this couple? If you're okay with like, you know, one's an elf and one's a dwarf, you can both roll a D100. Or if one of you wants to pick and roll the D100, or both roll and maybe decide between the two of what sounds better.
what if we were both half elves
Which half?
with
Ha ha
different
ha ha
halves?
ha. The top half, right?
That sounds good. Adams.
Okay, you just want to be half elves, or do you want to roll for it and see what you get? D100, two D10s.
Okay, he's getting more dice.
Well, I didn't know we needed to do 100s.
Well, the standard array of dice, of course.
38.
38. As I scroll down on the list, that choice. Okay. So this one says Thrycreen or Crowls, which are like a particular kind of Thrycreen in the Ravnica setting. Maybe Michael wants to roll and see if there's a different kind of ancestry you might land on. If
I don't know what
Thrycreen doesn't speak to you.
I don't know what a thrycreen is.
Those are like the mantis people. There have been a couple of Thrycreens that have been made on the podcast. So yeah, they're like the bug people. In fifth edition, they were introduced with all the Spelljammer stuff that came out, but they've been in D&D for quite a while.
Michael got a 68.
68. Okay. So there's Thrycreen. There's also the possibility. Okay, this one says Drider, Chitney, or Coldrith. Those are like spider adjacent, like drow. Your Driders for sure are like the half spider, like the lower spider, big spider body, and then the top half is a drow. So if, if you think that those conceivably spider adjacent creatures would be driving a caravan, or you know, you could roll the D100s again, or you know, if you like half elves, like you declared earlier, that's fine too. It's just trying to lend a little random element of chance into this thing.
Well, I was thinking about the half elves, and a couple that are half elves would part of the lore is that you belong to both societies, but you really belong to neither. So going back and forth, facilitating trade between them would make sense.
You like that idea? I know that,
Sounds good.
yeah, like, well, I know they've done some errata after the fact and I know certainly in the 2024 rules, they've removed half elves and half orcs altogether. I guess to
Mm.
eliminate any stigmas or anything like that. But I like that idea of like, okay, so like they're both half elves. They found each other. They found love. They're married. They're doing this caravan thing, and you think they're actually facilitating trade between like a human dominant settlement and then like a elven dominant settlement, and they
Maybe
just
elven goods that humans want.
oh, okay, and so then they go back and forth, and do they call either one of those places home, or is there like a they're just, oh, we just live on the road, and that's like we just have our wagon and we just live on the road going back between both
I think
places.
home is the wagon.
I would agree.
Ah, home is where the wagon wheel is. Okay. Okay, so then it sounds like we have the job or role in society already figured out that we don't have to roll for. It's just they're quote unquote truckers, they're merchants, they're a wagon team that goes up and down the road back and forth between these two points of civilization. Okay. My guests are nodding their head. This is audio
Okay.
audio
Not a
medium.
video recording.
Yeah, not a video recording. Okay. And then let's see, do you want to roll randomly for the ages? As far as the age category ranges, or do you already have an idea of how old these two half elves, Antoine and Mina, should be?
Let's roll.
Sure, D8.
3.
3 would put them at young adult. So if you want them to be a young adult couple,
Newly married, decide to spend life on the road.
newlyweds. Oh, that's cute.
We found love.
We found love on the open road. Okay. All right. And then let's see. Now we get to take a pause on the dice rolling, as you know, and now you get to come up with the physical description. So Antoine and Mina, both half elves that are newlyweds, that are part of this wagon, this merchant guild or what have you, making runs back and forth between the two civilizations. What do they look like when we stumble across them? How are they going to present themselves?
Well, Antoine doesn't look like many half elves that you would typically see in a fantasy setting because he is, again, on the road. So he's a little bit more disheveled, right? He's got the beard, which normally you wouldn't see on a half elf, right? They would be clean shaven or not be able to grow hair.
Mhm.
So I'm picturing,
There's definitely a beard involved.
definitely a beard,
Very scruffy beard.
scruffy beard. Of
Mhm.
course, he's got the pointy ears,
Mhm.
but yeah, everyone just notices that and pauses and causes them to think for a second. Average height, average build, hasn't really worn on him too much yet, right? He's new at this game. Even though, for a half elf, being much older than a regular human would be at that stage, but
Mhm.
uh, he's definitely not your typical looking half elf.
Brown eyes, blue eyes, green eyes, purple eyes.
Gonna go purple.
Ooh, okay. Sorry, I've been playing Baldur's Gate 3, so I know like in character creation, you can do like all
Just bring up
kinds
the
of
character creation screen and visualize it live.
Purple is there? Are you thinking like fantasy purple or like Liz Taylor? It's actually a real thing. Purple.
Oh, I didn't know Liz Taylor has purple
Yes,
eyes.
she does.
Oh, that certainly seems like a rarity among humans.
Well, it's they're brown hinting at purple. You have to look really close,
Hmm.
but it is a real thing.
Well, there you go. I learned something new today. What are you thinking, Michael? Fantasy purple or like that brown with that tinge that actually makes them like the purplish amethyst or whatever?
Let's go Liz Taylor purple.
Ooh, okay. Liz Taylor, purple eyes. Interesting. And it
He's
like, are
looking
we?
up a picture.
Ooh, okay. Well, maybe we'll have to throw one in the show notes. So I know the scraggly, scruffy beard, which apparently Mrs. seems okay with. That doesn't bother her, which is which is a good thing.
It's part of who he is.
Okay. All right. It's part of who he is. She accepts that and she loves that. Okay. Is he like black, brown, blonde, sandy blonde, red? I don't know. Like what kind of like colored hair does he have?
I'm thinking a jet black.
Ooh, jet black. Okay.
Yeah, to go with the purple eyes.
Okay, jet black, and so his beard also would be very dark then as well.
Yeah.
Okay. And then as far as Mina's concerned, how does Mina appear? In contrast, in comparison, complementing to Antoine's appearance.
I'm thinking green-eyed and blonde.
Okay.
I mean, in real life, I'm a very tall woman, but Mina should be very small and slight, like almost half the size of Antoine.
Ooh. Okay. Is Antoine a big guy?
I'm imagining him just this very tank of a man.
But not dwarfish.
Okay, not dwarvish, but like, like a tall, muscular, imposing sort of a half elf.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm making your cat.
Well, this band you see, so it's okay.
I'm just thinking of Mina as this little green-eyed, blonde hair, lithe, tiny woman, always going around barefoot.
Hmm. Has her well, there's no dashboard per se on a wagon. But I'm just imagining like the equivalent of like, oh, I'm just in the
They're
passenger
kind of
seat.
this though.
Or I guess there's like a front rail or something like that, but not
Hmm.
like a modern dashboard like of a 18 wheeler or something like that. But barefoot, okay. But probably as the marriage goes on, hopefully, she'll be doing some, I don't know. Is Antoine one to let her like? I mean, probably if their wagon is their home, then probably there does have to be some degree of like Mina accepts the reality of like she's gonna have to get her hands dirty.
Yeah, what's your strength ability score?
I maxed on decks, so that's where I'm useful.
Ah,
Is getting
okay.
into the small places. I mean, he can get the lug nuts off, but I'm the one who's doing all of the little fiddly work.
Mm,
We
right.
complement each other well.
Ah, okay. So Antoine's like lifting up like the whole wagon, and then like Mina's the one that like slips the wagon wheel back on. So then Antoine can relax, and now okay, the wagon's reset, and then you tighten the wheel back on, and like okay, now we're ready to hit the road again.
When it happens, like, I mean, magical enchantments definitely help keep it a little bit more stable than possibly falling apart. But yeah.
Sure, you pull the wagon jack or something out of the back, and just crank it up to help out. It was artificer device, right?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any other notes that you think would be interesting to describe the physical appearance of either character? Probably, wedding rings and that are probably shiny and brand new because to depict their newlywed status. Is it like if the when we imagine the characters are meeting them, is it newlywed as like we were married yesterday, we were married like 3 months ago, we were married 6 months ago, a year? Like how kind of a newlywed are we imagining them?
I think a few months.
They've been at it.
Okay.
I mean, that's nothing in terms of a half-elf lifespan,
Sure.
but
I'm just curious as to like when we meet them in their physical demeanor and appearance, is it like, okay, like both of them know like, hey, we're in this for the long haul. So it's not like on a whim they decided like, oh, we're gonna just do this and we're greenhorns and we're fresh to this. It's like, no, we've been doing this for at least a couple of months, or Antoine was doing this already and then found Mina.
well, you're assuming that Antoine was the one already on the road. Maybe they were both already on the road.
Now they're
Oh.
together.
Yes. Mina was riding as a courier.
Oh, okay, interesting. So she's good with horses then.
Yes.
Ah, okay. And then was Antoine, before he got his own wagon, um, was he doing like caravan guard work or just working on other caravans and stuff like that?
Maybe he was the one who was not mobile.
He's been in the industry, working his way up. Um, Definitely a master apprenticeship kind of program, where he had to do the odd jobs on a train. But now he's got a new phase in life where he's taking it on his own, but not his own by himself together.
Mm. Are they part of a guild, or is this like they've struck out on their own and they're trying to build up their business and stuff like that, like gaining trust, if you will, for their wagon and for their speed and efficiency, if you will.
Formerly part of a guild. but breaking off into their own thing now.
Ooh, interesting. Going independent, going rogue, if quote unquote rogue, if you
That
will.
might be how they feel, but that's not how they feel.
Hmm.
Oh, that could be part of the challenge is trying to not go rogue.
Mm. Is it a human guild or is it an elven guild?
Well, that was the problem is that nobody really accepted us entirely.
Okay, so just no good pure fit with either city. So you're just, hey, we know both societies. We're just going to do it on our own, kind of a thing. And so it's kind of a new thing, at least for the both of you. But you've been at it for a
Yes.
couple months. Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're not catching them on their first go. It's not their first rodeo.
Not their
But it
first
might
rodeo.
be the second.
And if you were to describe each of our characters, Antoine and Mina, with 3 adjectives, what 3 adjectives would you use?
I would say lithe, bubbly, and bright.
Optimistic, brawny, and cunning.
Okay. All right. I like that. Yeah, we're getting this idea of how the dynamic of the two work together. Okay. And then now we get to go back to rolling some dice. So, of course, we like all of our NPCs to have something cool on their person. So, what's a valuable item, piece of lore, secret, or ideal or concept that each character would ascribe to? So, you get to do the combination roll with the D4 for the category and then the D6 for the particular thing.
He's handing them to me, so I think he wants me to go first. I got a 1 on the D4 and a 5 on the D6.
Okay, a 5. So you got a 1, which is an item, and then a 5 on the D6, which would mean you have a valuable item. Ah, okay. And this answer was provided by our previous guest, Nolan Page. Mina has an old goblet from ancestral nobles. So,
Which side?
yeah, I was going to say which side, the elven or the human side.
Or do we need a D2?
Um, I think it's from the human side,
Ooh, okay.
and it was a wedding present from my mother.
Oh, okay. And is
And
this a goblet that's been in the family long?
yes, it is something that she has held on to remind her of when our family used to be noble a few generations back.
Oh, so your family had a fall from grace.
Yes.
And now we should have figured this out. But are each families, they like Antoine's family and Mina's family, are they in turn other families of half elves, or are they situations of one parent is a human and one parent is an elf? Because now with this introduction, with Mina's wedding present being this old goblet from ancestral nobles, that a couple generations, Mina's family was noble, but now they've fallen out of power. So is this a thing that's like, is Mina perchance like, an elven parent and a human parent, or are both of you both from half elven families, or I don't know, just kind of interested now.
I think an elven father and a human mother.
For
Ooh.
Antoine, it's the opposite. That's where he gets his physical attributes from his human father.
Mm. And then you have the elven mother. Interesting. And from each of these opposite societies that the trades go back and forth from, or like completely even different places?
I think in this area, there would be a combination between the two places going back and forth between for Antoine.
I just always imagine the elf in the situation as kind of passing through and not
Ah.
someone that you ever get to meet,
Oh, okay. So
if
like
you know what I mean.
like an elven bard, perhaps? Like your mom's from the human settlement of this story, and elven bard dad rolled through town, and then 9 months later, Mina showed up.
Like the Greek gods.
I don't know. Somehow all my half elves, that's how that happens. It makes for an interesting chip on somebody's shoulder to deal with.
Yeah. And then as well, I mean, now I'm just interested in the local politics of this area. That apparently, Mina's family used to be noble, but now for whatever reason they fell out of power, which is definitely very interesting. Okay. And then the same thing for Antoine. Antoine now gets to roll a d4 for the category and then a d6 for the particular thing.
All right, that's a 3 for the D4
A
and
3 is going to be a secret.
a 2 for the D6.
Do I know the secret?
Ooh. Well, no. Well,
Ooh.
I don't know. This is
Take
Antoine.
the head down, the headphone out. Yeah, yeah.
All
No,
right.
take it out.
Oh, my characters have no idea.
You just don't like to have no secrets. Okay.
My hair is holding on to it.
My guests are sharing a pair of headphones. Okay, this secret was provided by previous guest April Hill. Antoine, you are the illegitimate child of local royalty.
Ooh. All right. Passing it back.
Okay,
Okay, so what was the secret?
sure. So this secret, provided by previous guest April Hill, Antoine is the illegitimate child of local royalty.
That was my thing.
But you don't know that about Antoine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, is this something that Antoine would share with Mina, or would he keep this to himself?
He's keeping this to himself because he knows the baggage she carries.
Right, because his elven mother, and then he has a human father. Who's the royalty in the situation then?
What if somehow the royalty in his line were the ones who deposed the ones in my line? And we're a couple
Ooh.
generations later. So he's not going to tell me about that.
Oh,
What
right.
side? Elven or human?
Well, it was the human on my side. Okay.
So then it means then his dad is one of the the current nobles in the human settlement from this area.
Yes. But he hasn't talked about that. The wedding was very much on the elven side.
Oh,
Chimera.
okay. So did dad attend the wedding?
No, dad wasn't there.
Maybe it
Oh,
was on the road with our guild,
The family we know.
the family we chose.
aw, that's very sweet.
Maybe he's met my mom, but other than that,
That's very juicy as far as like, oh, my dad's one of the nobles in town, but I don't talk to him or see him, or he doesn't acknowledge me. And then you have the juicy. This is good stuff, man. This is how you do it, folks. Okay, and now we get to the part where we need to figure out the side quest. So is this going to be a situation where both of them together are going to ask the players for help in a certain situation? Or does each character have their own side quest that they're pitching? And if you need to randomly generate that, you can roll the d12. Otherwise, if you're inspired, you can go ahead and lay it out on us what you think Antoine and Mina together or Antoine and Mina separately would offer up as side quests for a bunch of heroes to go and do.
I want this side quest to be something that blows this situation open, but I can't think of how that would work.
Well, let's try if we can, if it's not going to break the rules. Let's roll for our option from the table and see if it fits.
Okay, sure, go for it. Yeah, we can mix and match.
We have 3.
3. Okay. Well, this suggestion is provided by previous guest, Skyline Stars. Perform a bank heist for 3 dragon toes with claws. Does that sound something plausible for Antoine and Mina to be able to offer up? Or do you want to re-roll or just think of something? Because there's other choices as well. You could keep rolling the D12 and see what else you get.
What if it was a heist from something your father had, but I can't think of why they would want it?
Yeah, let's try another roll. I don't see that one fitting. How about 11?
11? 11 is from previous guest, Ben Martin Mooney. Take the NPC with you as a follower / retainer / hireling to train them so they can become their own adventurer.
There we go. I think there's something there along the lines of we're trying to start our own guild.
Yes, we're trying to start our own business.
Yes.
And we
Ah,
want to be in business with the adventuring party somehow.
Yes.
Okay. So they want the adventuring party to be their sponsors somehow, to like bankroll them, if you will.
Yes. Because I'm assuming said adventuring party is successful because they're still here, which means they probably have a bit of gold.
We'd like to do some work for them.
Okay. So let's see. Okay, so I know the note here given to us from Ben says to take them along with you so you can train them up to be the adventurer, but we're taking this and sort of spinning this.
Well, this might be their time to learn some skills towards their bigger adventuring lifestyle. so we can get to know each other a little bit. And then, benefits will come when they're famous adventurers and how we helped get them started.
So it's more of like an option, not necessarily a quest to be able to invest with them, or is there some sort of quest based on this that they need? Like, is it going to be like a hey, guard our caravan sort of a
I think
thing?
there's an immediate quest, yes. And then this is skills towards working together that they learn.
What if we have a dangerous cargo and we need them to help guard our caravan?
Yes.
Okay, so we're fusing the two. We're working with the idea. We used it as a springboard. Okay, so you have a dangerous cargo. Okay, and you need the party to go with you because you guys are operating independently. You've broken off from the guild recently, so you don't have the protection or the guarantees that normally you would be afforded if you had remained with the guild. So, so you're striking out on your own. You're this newlywed couple, and you're braving it, and you need the heroes to step in and be your guards. What is this cargo that you're transporting?
Be a magical item of great power.
Is it like an eccentric wizard that's sending something to another eccentric wizard in the other town?
I will make a calculating face.
I mean, there's the famous movie, oh goodness, I can't think of it now. But basically the premise of the movie is like it's war and they're trying to transport some nitroglycerin. But like the whole movie is tense because it's like, oh, this military vehicle can't be rocked too much because if it does,
Yeah.
then the nitroglycerin will blow up and stuff like that. So
Yeah. This is a rare material component for spell, which are often underlooked and kind of hand waved away because people like playing with spells, but not getting the back guano to cast fireball.
mhm.
But a much more dangerous substance.
Yes.
Okay, so you're transporting a dangerous, unstable question mark, valuable spell component material.
Yes. Extra bonus for the adventurers if one of them's an alchemist.
Okay, interesting.
We don't fully understand what it is, but an alchemist could.
Okay, all right, that's a benefit. So if your party is particularly curious, like maybe perhaps some arcana checks might be able to help determine those materials or their value and worth. Okay, now I'm just kind of curious the setup, the nature of this. So they just took this job because no one else wanted to take it or didn't want to risk it, but because, or are you guys left with no options and no choices, and this is like the only job y'all could get?
Maybe it was the only job that we could get, and we were naive to how dangerous it is. So now that's why we're on the road with this dangerous substance. And I'm trying to think of what might have happened to tip us off that it's pretty dangerous.
Well, it's glowing.
Yes, it started to glow.
Okay. So is it time sensitive then you're thinking like, oh, you can't dilly dally on the road because like this is growing more unstable by the day or whatever?
Yes.
All right. So it's not like a side quest that a party could be like, oh, we know there's a side quest. We'll come back to it later after we've grinded about 30 hours.
This one's got the time ticker. It's going to expire warning.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it's a limited time only side quest that a party could go on between these 2 points of civilization. Is it going from the human place to the elven place or the elven place to the human place?
It's going from the human place to the elven place because it's something that the crafty humans have obtained and don't really know much about and are being quite honestly a little bit cavalier with the dangerous nature of this material.
Mm,
Which is why we weren't aware of how dangerous it could be when we picked it up.
I see. So it's like the equivalent of like the humans stumbled upon plutonium and they're like, well, we don't know what to do with this, but we're sure the elves will know.
Yeah. They knew enough to know, hey, we can make some money off of this, like all humans do.
Right. And so then all the guilds in the human town were like, no, we're not touching that. But, with limited choices, you were like, we'll take this job. And then you're like, crud, this stuff is glowing. We don't know what it does. We got a time limit on this thing. We got to get moving. Okay. So
Yes.
that's the hook to get our adventurers on the journey. So dungeon masters will have to figure out how long this journey will take. Maybe there's skill challenges or trials or like I don't know, like challenges or like, oh, can we do like some magic to cool it down so it doesn't explode or something like that? Whatever the challenge of it may be.
And the players may have heard a rumor about a place outside of town that has disappeared. And not just like in a blown up sense, it's disappeared.
Oh, like because this stuff is strong enough to like dimensionally move things?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All
But
right.
you don't know that. You just know
For that to
something
happen,
weird's happened.
plot wise, on the far end of this, there is a very powerful elven wizard, and you would have helped a now much stronger and more experienced caravan couple who can help with later quests.
So as we're thinking and we're trucking and we're doing this, so we got the players hooked. They're on the adventure. They do whatever challenges or problems face them on the road, but we're thinking at the finish line now. So the heroes have successfully helped Antoine and Mina to develop this dangerous, arcane, highly radioactive, quote unquote, material to the elven settlement for it to be handled and processed. What's going to be the reward for the players? How are they going to be rewarded by Antoine and Mina for their help on this journey?
Did we get any money for this?
Well, we get our hurrying fee, but we have to pay some of that to the adventurers for helping us.
Yes.
Okay, so the party will get a standard caravan guarding fee, I guess, out of this
Well, with hazard pay.
with hazard pay, of course. But is there anything else above and beyond that Antoine and Mina would think to reward the players with, you think? Or is there that plea of like, hey, invest in us, and then that way we can get better at being able to do bigger and better, more dangerous
I
jobs?
want to tug at their heartstrings, and the hazard pay is going to bankrupt us. Like, we barely get any, we don't really even get enough to cover costs if we're paying them enough.
But what
Mm.
we can promise them is something in the future, which when they do bump into us, they get that reward that pays off first.
But if they're noble of heart and truly good aligned, then the wizard that we were delivering to will
Mhm.
recognize that, will pay them in powerful magic items.
Ooh, okay. So, okay, when they make the delivery, the wizard takes notice, the elven wizard takes notice, and then we'll decide to like work with the party on stuff.
We assume the party helped prevent a disaster of
Epic proportions.
epic proportions, even though they didn't know that that's what they were getting into at the beginning.
I see. And then, tying it back to the random dice roll that we had, there's that plea or there's that request as well of like, hey, if you invest with us, maybe give us a little bit of, maybe don't take as much money from us. Or, hey, if you can help us invest, then we can be, down the road when you meet us again, we'll be more competent, we'll be highly, we'll be competitive against all the standard guild caravans and stuff like that going between the two settlements.
I think it would depend on what the goals of the party are, because some parties just want cool loot and some want to go run around and hit things, and some are genuinely trying to build a kingdom somehow. Because that's what happened in your game. That's what's happening in Kingmaker, which is the point of Kingmaker. So if they were genuinely trying to build up a kingdom,
Or have a bastion,
yes,
like in 2024 rules. Yeah.
it would be very helpful to have some people who know the roads and are happy to take messages and are very, very grateful.
Okay. So you could potentially gain their network insights as far as deliveries are concerned. And I know through this episode, we've been saying, oh, it's just between like this human and elven settlement. But, that's too
You
narrow
gotta
of a
start
box.
somewhere.
Right, you
Yeah.
start somewhere, maybe that's their primary route, but there are other settlements nearby, and because they're constantly on the road, they're
And
always
that's where the dungeon master would adapt this to their situation. All right, here's a small thing. What's the bigger picture?
right. Okay, so being able to invest in them, have them become allies or involved with their bastions, their strongholds, their kingdoms or whatever, and now you've got this dedicated caravan courier, and now, if you're making,
That you meet
candles.
up with periodically and are happy to take extra bulk off of you to your struggle.
Ah, okay. So they can make delivery runs for you. So when you're done plundering the dungeons, they can just, oh, you have that 4,000 pounds of copper coins. Sure, we'll haul that back to your, maybe not 4,000 pounds, but however many hundreds of pounds of coinage on you. Sure, we'll run that back to your castle. No problem.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Well, okay. So we know the consequence of success, but what's gonna be the consequence of failure?
Well, I think there's a couple options.
Okay. Yeah. What are we thinking?
Well, I think the most obvious one is total failure,
Mm.
which would be likely a TPK.
You plane shift?
Well, true. Yeah, maybe it's not instant death. Maybe, depending on what their capabilities are, you could take one or many of the party and plane shift them somewhere else.
Okay, yeah. So the materials get overwhelmed. Like you either take too long or you refuse.
Or you try to stabilize them and make the wrong action.
Oh, okay. And so we're imagining these materials have a lot to do with like plane teleporting, shifting sorts of magics. And so if you get it wrong or you take too long or you delay and refuse, some sort of like cataclysmic plane shift occurs. And now suddenly, like as you were alluding to, this other community that people are talking about in the nearby rumors in the area, well, now suddenly this whole chunk of the city is just gone or whatever because, or like this whole section of the road or forest or whatever is gone, like it just disappeared. There's just like a huge crater, like whatever was here is gone now, sort of a thing. And the players may go with it to a different plane of existence, you think?
Yes.
Yeah. Additionally, there could be another failure path where the delivery doesn't happen. It's not catastrophic, but some of the backstory between how and why that's being transported from the humans to the elves has something to do with our characters or our NPCs, side quests, their backgrounds of their families.
You think human noble dad had something to do with this as far as like, oh, I know what this stuff was. I knew that it was dangerous. And so I better just get it to the elves. And if they don't get it in time,
Well, it could be something about how they're in power, right? Maybe the elves had something to do with it, of the regime change that happened many generations ago, and this is part of
oh,
keeping that working. And maybe the players decide, if they know and they're trying to help the old regime
mhm.
out, maybe this is a way they can put a thorn in the side of the status quo.
But that would mean betraying this very innocent young couple.
Right? Depends on what they know.
Right. Okay, that's cool. Okay, so yeah, so well, also then that means then that Antoine, even though he's illegitimate, technically I guess would have a stake in the nobles of the human kingdom or place, right? Because that's who his dad is.
Yes.
Okay, so so further complications and interlinking between these two groups. Okay, so yeah, there's a lot to play with as far as a DM is concerned of like how deep and intricate they want the politics to get between these two places in this entire region. Okay, that's interesting. And then is this something that the couple would be able to work through depending on maybe like the persuasions and the roles and stuff like that of the players, like if they're invested in this couple, or is it just like the worst case scenario, like this couple is done and ruined or something like that because of the fallout of the bad delivery or whatever? Or does this whole this whole region plunge into conflict or something like that?
I think there'll be bigger things outside of that relationship, but I think they would hold strong.
Yes.
Oh, well, that's nice. It's good. In spite of everything, there might be, hurt feelings or something like that, but they'd be able to, find their, their strength in their marriage and their love, and be able to carry through. That's good. Because many people would be like, oh no, they're totally destroyed. They can't ever trust each other again. But no, it's like they truly, deeply in their hearts love each other. And but they'll just have to bear the burden of this terrible thing, I guess, but they'll bear it together.
Mina would feel horribly betrayed, and that could be part of the ongoing quest.
Of making amends.
Yes.
Okay. And then do you feel like these are pretty well rounded out characters, or do you want to explore any optional questions, or do you feel like Antoine and Mina, the quote unquote truckers, are pretty well figured out?
I think we've given Dungeon Masters a good starting point, and we'll let them take it from there.
Alrighty.
We just world builded. We didn't just character build.
That's true. And I think it's time we throw Antoine and Mina into a random encounter. This random encounter is brought to you by my sponsor, Zencastr. Zencastr came into my life when I didn't think I would need it, but now I definitely need it with trying to raise a family and keep the podcast episodes flowing and all that stuff, and not trying to keep myself awake for all hours of the night trying to get these episodes edited. Thanks to Dane and Benjamin over at Dispel Magic showing me this service, I was hooked, and I decided to become a paying member so I could get access to all these awesome tools with editing and getting these great episodes to you. So it is so easy and super easy now to record a podcast with Zencastr. You log into your browser and you start recording a high quality podcast right away. You could record studio quality sound and up to 4K video with your guests. Feel a sense of zen, knowing Zencastr's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable. A hard sell. On that point alone, I've been podcasting for a couple of years now. That is amazing. So that is a great selling point of this service. You can sound your best. Have you ever worried what you might sound like on a podcast? With Zencastr's post-production process, it makes you sound buttery smooth. It automatically removes the ums and ahs as you click on that feature in the post-production settings, and in your recordings, it's going to remove those awkward pauses and conversations too with the click of a button. Set the right podcast loudness and levels while reducing background noise with a click of a button. It really is that easy. It's all in one. If you have thought about podcasting before and realized that you need a lot of different tools and services, those days are done. With Zencastr's all-in-one podcasting platform, you can create your podcast all in one place and distribute to Spotify, Apple, and all other major podcast destinations. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my code SIDEKQPodcast, and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. Again, the website, zencastr.com/pricing. Use the code SIDEKQPodcast and get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. Thank you so much to the sponsor, and back to the podcast. All right, so now we're here in the random encounter section, so we get to do a little bit of a role play, a vignette, a scene with our characters made here today. So we've got Antoine, we've got Mina, but the question is, what sort of scene are you interested in presenting them in today? Is this going to be one of the podcast adventuring characters meeting the couple and agreeing to be their guard on this caravan? Is it something to do with like a scene between the two of them, maybe discussing their life and how things are and the lead up, the build up to taking this job? Or is it like some sort of beef or encounter with one of these guilds, if you will, and like, oh, we're going to strike it out on our own, or I don't know, what kind of scene are you interested in presenting Antoine and Mina in today?
I would either want to do them taking the job or at the end of the job where they realize they really can't afford to pay anything, or at least they're being very noble and paying everything that they got and are just completely destitute at this point.
Yeah, so we'll use the podcast characters to simulate having made it to the end of the quest and what would happen at the end.
Okay. So you want to fast forward on that. Okay. So you, of course, know pretty well by now the roster of characters that we have. Do I need to go through the Rolodex real quick, or do you have an idea of who you think they would meet at this point? Happy to go through the Rolodex of characters if you'd like.
Let's do the Rolodex.
Sure. Okay. So we've got Duncan, the recklessly brave adventurer for hire, happy-go-lucky, No task too small, no feat too daring, sort of a fighter, adventurer guy. We've got Sonia, who started off as the warrior woman and then multi-classed into a paladin who serves a god to redeem the undead. We have Korak, the lawful evil arcane trickster roguish dwarf, and Chrisley, the herbalist botanist wood elf druid, who then multi-classed into a cleric of a god who serves living memory. We then have Orion, who's the astral elf illusionist wizard. We've got Agape, who is the lilac colored tiefling Sorlock. Started off as a wild magic sorcerer and then made a warlock pact with an archfey, Prosperina of the podcast. We have Lifespell, who is the gnome necromancer with his skeletal manservant Octavius. And then we've also got Anne-Boleyn Mithril Shaper, who is a dwarven bard lady. I think that pretty well covers all of the characters that have been created on the podcast. But if you feel like none of them really captures what you're looking for, then we can always roll up a brand new podcast adventurer character to go on the journey with them.
I would want to deal with the paladin.
Oh, Sonia, the warrior woman paladin?
That's an option. What if it's Hobart and Eliwick?
Oh,
So Hobart and Eliwick are the two adventurer characters that Michael and Elizabeth originally played in the 5e campaign with me. So it would be the both of you interacting with the NPCs then of of this episode. Or do you want to meet with Sonia? Or does Sonia have Hobart and Eliwick in tow?
I like the Hobart and Eliwick.
Yes.
So Eliwick is a bleeding heart and is gonna, and she wants to get paid, but she's also
Yeah. But I think, Kurt, you should play Hobart and Eliwick.
Oh, I should play them both? Oh gosh,
Yeah,
I'm
we'll
gonna
throw a
need
curveball in here.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm gonna need some notes on so I mean I can try and do this, but I mean I
Or we
feel
could
like
do it.
they're your characters. But then each of you you'd be playing like two characters each. Which is why I was saying if you wanted to compromise with having all these characters involved, Sonya could be with Hobart and Eliwick, and then they stumble upon this other couple. You just would have to say like Eliwick then says, or Mina says, or Antoine says, or Hobart says. It's up to
Yeah,
you.
let's try that.
okay. Michael says he wants to try it.
Okay, all right. So we're gonna try it. So doing a little bit of I don't know about blurring the lines is the right analogy, but we're blending and
Mixing
we're
the
meshing.
multiverse.
We're mixing the multiverse. There we go. Okay. Where we last left our character Sonia, she had stumbled across this border town, and she had met up with Ambrose Eusebius and this sort of unsettling sort of thing going on with that town. And we'll say it was a miraculous sort of a thing with discovering the plot or the hidden heresy, if you will, and feeling the call of her God. She went and dealt with him in a dramatic way. What that is, I don't know. That's up for you to determine. But after that adventure, we'll say she was able to try and make herself back away from the front lines where this lich was sort of operating. She felt the call and pull of her god elsewhere. And she found herself companioned with a dwarven ranger and a forest gnome bard. And they make their way into this human dominant settlement that's a little closer inland. And so Sonia and Hobart and Eliwick have had a little bit of an opportunity to get to bond and know each other. And of course, Sonia is this very tall, muscular human woman, and then a dwarven man and a gnomish woman. There's ups and downs, there's drama, there's twists and turns. They meet this couple and they decide to take the job. And they make it to the end of the journey
Without exploding
without
or
exploding
disappearing.
or disappearing. Yeah, I guess they come up upon this mage's tower, and this elven mage comes out, and he's very happy to have the delivery. And he begins to use telekinesis and his other arcane powers to move these goods from the wagon up to his tower. And as this is happening, now we're having this dialogue and this scene. Uh, and so Sonia is just kind of like wiping her brow, and she's just being like, "Wow, that was a harrowing journey that we shared on the road, all. But I'm glad that we made it here to the end of the journey, and the cargo is delivered safely."
Hobart shares his relief that they were able to get it in time before what they assumed would happen, as the glowing was increasing in frequency of some kind of cataclysmic event. Um, I imagine the mage was relieved and took care of it right away when they got there. So he's kind of coming down from that stressful high.
Elliot is looking to get paid after all of that.
So she goes up to
So she goes up to
Antoine
and Mina, like, so
oh yes. We do owe you. Sorry, we're quite new at this. I didn't handle the finances on my prior guild work. Let me go just meet with my compatriot
darling,
and Mina.
as Mina, the mage didn't give us very much gold.
What do you mean?
I mean, they've been with us this whole time. We can give them all of this gold, and it's not going to hardly cover what they've done for us. And I mean, I know we can sleep in the wagon, but there's not enough to resupply.
Well, I think the best we can do is tell them our situation. Pray to the gods that they'll be understanding.
I think the honorable thing to do is to give them the gold. They've more than put their lives at risk for us. We'll make it.
All right. So Antoine goes back to Eliwick and brings a smaller bag than maybe she was expecting it to be a gold, and says, "Here, this is all we have. We cannot repay you for what you did to help us help our people."
Ellie probably doesn't understand that they just gave her everything. Maybe Sonia understands.
Yeah, I think Sonia rolls an insight check, and perhaps guided by the hand of fate from the god that she serves, she gets like a critical success on her insight check. And and getting to know through the journey, Eliwick has been great with playing songs and regaling with tale, going on about her great epic friendship that she had with Barbie, the half orc barbarian. And, she found Eliwick and Sonia have sort of developed a kinship as well, because, you reminded me of my dearest friend, who's back at our keep or whatnot. And so, so Sonia like takes a moment to like set her barbarian paladin muscular lady hand on Eliwick's shoulder, and just like very quietly says to her, like, "No, we can be good with what they promised us. They don't have to, just kind of giving her a look like, come on, you're asking them to give up everything that they have just to satiate your need for money, sort of a thing."
Ellie goes, "Oh, so that's what happened. Um, we have to give the money back."
I mean, what would Eduardo think? Sonia will lay in to perhaps guilt trip Eliwick a little bit on that.
Eduardo would do some Robin Hood craziness right now, but he's not here because that would be even more complicated.
More background characters. Hobart says, "We have enough. It was fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was fun.
Reminds me of the good old days when
Nobody died.
nobody died.
Yes, from
No
what you
children
told
were
me,
harmed."
you are all sitting comfortably in a castle. Last I heard, from what you told me in your tales, this is true? Is it not correct?
Well, the details are fuzzy. Uh, Hobart had a lot to drink.
Yes, you did drink me. You beat me in those drinking contests fair and square, Mister Master Iron Bear.
But we can't just, it would dishonor them to give them the money back. What if we told them, hey, we actually need you to be a courier for us?
Perhaps they could run the storehouse at our bastion.
Oh, yes.
There you go. That sounds like a good compromise. Take what's fair and owed from the wages of the journey, the wages of peril, Wink, I think was the name of the movie. We'll take our wages from this peril that we undertook. And then, perhaps you can have them work with you in your bastion, your stronghold. And they can help you grow and attain even greater epic legends and such.
Yeah, so we gain a follower, basically.
I think that sounds like a fair plan. I think my God would smile upon that.
Excellent. Now, where in this elven town is there somewhere to drink?
Eliwick and Sonia go give back some money.
Yeah, I think yeah. They exactly they go back to lead the money and so now talking to this other couple, Sonia will be like, I think we've come to a decision. We'll just take our normal wages that were promised. We understand you guys are newlyweds and congratulations again. That's amazing.
Oh, well, we couldn't honorably take you are owed that money. I mean, nobody died, but somebody nearly died.
Ah. I serve a god who wishes to redeem the undead. It's, it would be fine.
You sure? There's got to be something we can do for you.
Well, Sonia will gesture down to Eliwick, the bard, to lay out the plan of perhaps of some sort of agreement for their bastion stronghold thing.
Which she does do, which we already talked about.
Perfect. And then how would Mina and Antoine react to this idea of being able to work for Hobart and Eliwick and their company?
Well, they're elated because this means that they have stability, which going out on their own was a big risk. They're thanking their gods. They didn't expect this. They are a little worried about now being real competition to their former guild.
Mm.
But it seems like this will be far enough away to where, at least initially, there shouldn't be too much to worry about. They just want to celebrate in a moment.
And Sonia will reach into her own coin purse, and I think she produces some money that she has, and she's just like, I don't have as much need of this for me, and I've picked up stuff here and there, and just haven't quite spent it all. And I think this would be in better hands with you all. So she hands over like some extra amount of gold from her own personal stores that she has on her person. And then she'll turn to Eliwick and she'll say, well, Master Ironbear said that he needed a drink. And, well, I mean, I know some things about Elvish culture, but I'm afeared. I'm not as well educated. And perhaps I might need the aid of a bard to lead us to some sort of watering hole that would appease our dwarven friend.
Yes, I know a great tavern around here. It's a little highfalutin, but as elves are.
Ah. And then is there any final words that we would leave Antoine and Mina with before the scene closes out?
I think as the characters are walking away, they look back and Antoine and Mina is in Antoine's arms. And he's holding her and he's like, we're going to make it. Very heartwarming.
Was that good? Do you think that does the scene justice?
I think so. It's a fitting ending or a
There we go.
beginning.
Yes.
There we go.
The party's going to end in a tavern instead of starting.
Okay, there we go. That is what you were trying to say as the music was being queued up. So, well, that was certainly a first and a blast from the past. I know it's been a long while since we've heard personally in our lives from Hobart and Eliwick, and oh man, it would be nice to be able to get that group together. But I know our good friends Kiki and Michael also have moved as well to other places as well. So it certainly would have to be some sort of online game unless we could convince everyone to come about to one place to be able to play once again. Or maybe we just need to start up new characters. Who knows? Sunset those ones, leave them to their epic finale that they were destined for that never actually got to technically play out.
My character found love.
That's true. You rolled a natural 20 on that one in the Scarlet Rouge, I think it was the name of the
Yes.
place. Yes. Yeah, so Eliwick met a male gnomish sex worker guy named Eduardo, and rolled a natural 20 on her night with him, and then it was just like, all right, you're my love of my life, and I'm gonna follow you forever. And he had a big pompadour wig and kind of like a joke in the moment, but actually ended up becoming
We
cool.
adopted a child at one point. It was great.
Yes, a human child who had a bardic, early signs of bardic talent, and then you
I had to
offloaded.
start walking things back because I was making a mini party, and I think you were getting uncomfortable.
Well, I don't know, it was before the strongholds and followers and the rules had come out, so they didn't have things like retainers yet.
Well, I
Which
remember playing as Eduardo one time, and he was a rogue. So I was coming from a bard, and I was just so excited that I could hit things, and it would actually count for something.
Right, which now if we played those characters, I would definitely make Eduardo like some sort of like rogue based retainer character. So he wouldn't be a full rogue, but he'd have like rogue like powers on a lesser scale that you could use. You could equip him with magic items that would help him out. And then he would just be your loyal retainer and your boyfriend slash eventual husband. So there you go, a future that or a past or a future that could have been. But c'est la vie. That's not what it was meant for us. But yeah, and we made it through. And so, what did you think it was getting to be Antoine and Mina? How do you think those two lovebirds will fare? You
Well, I think with the help of their supporters, they're going to make it.
think?
And it was certainly interesting for us to play together instead
Yeah.
of playing as separate.
Well, I remember Rock and Folio were a very interesting pair of business partners. The Deathlock and the Vidalcan and the coin minters and the magic shoes that were cursed and all that good stuff. Which Duncan is still wearing those. So if you had met Duncan, you would have been like, "Those are some interesting shoes you're wearing." And he's like, "Yeah, they're great. I just can't bring myself to take them off, but they give me the best magic boosts and stuff. They complement my stats very well."
I am curious what Dolly's up to. So,
Yeah, maybe Dolly's in these woods. Who knows?
yeah,
And then
see.
Ulrich Griffbeard is just trying to get you to come to his prayer group.
Yes.
Ah, yes, allusions to early podcast episodes. So if by now we haven't convinced you, then you should go back and listen to those episodes and have a good time. But yeah, so you've done this 3 times now. So how do you think it's been back on the podcast, and how do you think how do you think things are going and will continue to go, and all that sort of stuff as we're here in the final thoughts section of the show?
Well, the world's definitely evolved over 4 years. I'll tell you that,
It has,
which
that's
is
for sure.
testament. Not just our real world, but this
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
world on the podcast.
I
yeah,
am impressed by how long you kept this going.
I know I am too, but we made it 18,000 downloads, which is not an insignificant number. It's certainly more than my first podcast I did with Anson ever made, like at least 10,000 more than that. But it's cool. Yeah, I've got to, have the blessing of being able to talk with some really cool, wonderful, awesome people, and just, trying to keep this hobby and this passion alive within me. Because it's like one of the few D&D outlets that I get to do. So this is fun for me to be able to do, to just invent characters, NPCs, to be able to put them out into the world. And even though I keep saying like, all right, guys, I have a Reddit that you can share your stories of how you use the NPCs, and you can share your artwork and all this other stuff on our socials. We're on literally all of them and stuff like that. You just wonder, like, hopefully, if anything, I'm at least using these NPCs in my games, which is always nice, being able to offload, off source some of the handling of some of these NPCs. But yeah, I think I've said it on the recent episode interview that I did on Roleplay Chats podcast when we talked about NPCs, just how I think some of the best NPCs that are made are those in collaboration. Whether it's our original game when it was like, hey, 5e is new, we're a brand new D&D group, we're trying to figure out our dynamics and our rapport between each other, and like what's funny and what's interesting and what's cool and what's not. And so being able to make characters like Eliwick and Hobart and Barbie and Spina and can't remember the warlock. But then eventually we got Kosif, and even some of our other adventuring, and the captain, and some of our other good friends. there in the party that I'm just blanking on right now. But all that to say, yeah, it's just fun. It's fun getting to make NPCs and have them out there in the world. And you know, I hope Antoine and Mina will eventually show up in a Pathfinder game run by Michael with his group, because
Oh, no, they're going to.
they're going to. Well, there we go, and we'll get to hear all about them in your game and how they turned out there and what the party did. So it sounds like we're here at the end. So is if there's anything you want to plug, if you want to be found on social media, all that sort of
I
stuff.
don't want to be found on social media.
Fair enough. Or any passions or causes that you want to make us aware about, let us know.
People are mean on social media.
Yeah, they can be. But, if we can all do our parts to be, little beacons of light, then I feel like we're at least doing something positive.
That's true.
Well, I'm going to plug playing together in person.
Okay. I like that. Yeah. In-person socialization. And I know we need to be better about it. And we will try and make something work as best we can, with wrangling a 4-year-old. But we'll try and make something work.
Well, he's almost up to age.
I'm gonna plug playing with your children.
Which is what I was going to say.
Yes.
We've got a little almost 5-year-old godson that is really into the role-playing side of it.
He's happy that adults are paying attention to him. But it's as easy as, okay, you have a guy. Describe your guy to me, and they'll describe him. Okay, you're going to fight a dragon. And then somehow the adventure is the same level as the dragon. And you just kind of roll 2 dice and see who gets the bigger number.
Right. Well, my son is just like that too. You all know that, like where he can get into these tangents and these stories and say, he has his own dice now that he rolls, and he just likes to roll the dice, or he likes to go through my monster manual books, or you were
We
very
got them
gracious.
a monster manual book for kids.
Yeah.
Yes, you did. Yes, very graciously. And so he's flipped through that a couple times to look at that and read the monsters and be fascinated with them. So yeah, we're fostering our own little community of new players, and we'll see what stories they will
It's a
want to
great
tell.
way to learn math. We
True.
actually played Mathfinder. If anyone knows of Pathfinder being a crunchy math-based game, it was helpful to teach multiplication and addition.
Multiplications.
So
And he's
you
not
too
even
can do
5
that.
yet.
No,
Wow.
no, the hilarious thing was when he tried to add 14 and 20. So he started with 14 and then was counting up to 20.
Ah.
He did it in the hardest way he possibly could have.
But darn it, he made it.
All right. Well, okay. Well, we got your plugs. We got your things that you wanted to share with the community. So, Michael and Elizabeth and Michael, thanks again for just being good people in my life, and for being great friends, and for being three-peats on this podcast. I can't wait to have you all back on this podcast, making even more interesting NPCs.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Sidekicks and Side Quests. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast through Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Amazon Music, Overcast, or YouTube, or feel free to save the RSS feed to use the app or player of your choice. Visit our website, sidekicksandsidequests.com, for links, write-ups of the NPCs, and to learn more about the show and the guests who have been on it. To stay up to date and interact via social media, you can follow the podcast on Facebook, Instagram/Threads, Twitter/X, and Reddit by searching for Side KQ Podcast. You can also find our small Discord community as well online. I would love to talk D&D and showcase your fan art, stories of how you used our NPCs, discussions, and commentary. And hey, if you'd like to hail the bard and send me a message, an email, you can do so by communicating with sidekicksandsidequests@gmail.com. To help this show be the resource it's meant to be, I ask that you leave a review on iTunes, 5 stars, please, to help spread the word and share our podcast with your friends and family. Whether you're a veteran player or an aspiring dungeon master, there's something here for everyone, and I want to hear about it. As mentioned in the NPC creations section of the podcast, I do in fact have a Patreon for Sidekicks and SideQuests. If you love this podcast and what we're trying to do here, I would appreciate it if you would just go to the website, patreon.com/sidekicks and sidequests. No matter your lifestyle expenses, we have wonderful rewards at every level of Patreon membership tier. Modest, comfortable, wealthy, and aristocratic accommodations await, and we welcome all patrons to the Levitating Platter. Seriously, your financial support allows for this passion project to continue to invest in itself through the tools that will take our production to the next level, as well as provide more content for our patrons and the community at large. Please consider supporting me on Patreon if you can.
Sidekicks and Sidequests is unofficial fan content permitted under the fan content policy.
Meaning I'm not approved or endorsed by Wizards.
Portions of the materials used are property of Wizards of the Coast.
Copyright Wizards of the Coast.
LLC.
Thank you for your support, and I'll see you at the pub next time.
Bar to rock on 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.